Two brothers have killed each other outside the walls of Thebes. By sunrise, one is honored as a defender. The other is condemned to remain unburied. King Creon has forbidden anyone to mourn him, and disobedience means death. Before the city has finished celebrating its survival, a young woman walks toward the forbidden body with dust in her hands. Her name is Antigone. She has already decided which law she will obey. The morning after the brothers died. Sophocles begins at daybreak, only hours after Thebes has survived a civil war. Oedipus' two sons, Eteocles and Polyneices, had stood on opposite sides of the struggle for the city. Polyneices returned from exile with an Argive army. Eteocles defended Thebes. In the battle that followed, the brothers met and killed each other. The Argive forces fled during the night. The city still stands, but the royal house is almost empty. Oedipus is gone. His sons are dead. His daughters, Antigone and Ismene, wake to a victory that feels very little like peace. Antigone calls Ismene outside the palace before the rest of the city is fully awake. She has heard what their uncle Creon, now ruler of Thebes, intends to do with the bodies. Eteocles will receive the honors of a defender. He will be buried according to custom and sent with dignity toward the world of the dead. Polyneices will receive nothing. No grave, no mourning, no funeral rites. His body will remain exposed beyond the city, guarded so that no relative can cover it with earth. For Creon, this distinction is the first test of his new rule. One brother defended Thebes. The other attacked it. To honor both equally would make loyalty meaningless. For Antigone, however, the decree crosses a boundary no king has the right to cross. Polyneices may have been an enemy of the city, but he is still her brother, still one of the dead, and still owed the rights that belong to the gods below. She tells Ismene what she intends to do. She will bury him. Ismene is horrified. Their family has already been destroyed by catastrophe. They are two young women in a city ruled by men, facing an explicit royal command backed by death. Ismene does not claim the decree is beautiful. She says they do not have the power to fight it. Antigone does not ask whether they have the power. She asks whether the duty disappears because the punishment is frightening. The sisters separate before sunrise has fully broken over Thebes. Ismene remains behind. Antigone walks toward the place where guards are watching her brother's body. The law against the dead. Creon enters before the elders of Thebes and explains the principle behind his decree. A ruler, he argues, must place the city above private friendship. Anyone who values a loved one more than the safety of the state cannot be trusted with power. Eteocles died defending Thebes, so he will be honored. Polyneices came with an army against his own city, so he will be denied honor even in death. The logic is severe, but it is not random. Creon has inherited a city that has just survived invasion and dynastic collapse. He believes authority must become visible immediately, or Thebes may fall back into chaos. That is what makes the tragedy dangerous. Creon does not think he is choosing cruelty. He thinks he is defending order. Then a frightened guard arrives with news that makes the new king's first command look suddenly fragile. Someone has reached Polyneices. The corpse has not been carried away, and no grave has been dug. Instead, a thin layer of dust has been scattered over the body, enough to perform the essential gesture of burial. The guard describes no footprints and no obvious culprit. To the men stationed there, the act seems almost impossible. Creon refuses to see a sacred mystery. He sees corruption. Someone, he insists, must have been bribed to disobey him. He threatens the guards unless they discover who did it. Outside the palace, the conflict has changed. It is no longer only a disagreement between a king and a dead enemy. Someone living has challenged the decree, and Creon has made clear that he will not allow the challenge to become a precedent. Dust over Polyneices. The guards return to the body and remove the dust. Then they wait. A wind rises across the dry Theban plain. Dust fills the air. When it settles, they see Antigone approaching the exposed corpse. She does not come like a thief stealing treasure. She comes like a sister returning to a funeral that has been interrupted. Seeing Polyneices uncovered again, Antigone cries out. She gathers dust, scatters it over him, and pours the ritual offerings owed to the dead. This time the guard sees her. When Antigone is brought before Creon, there is no long investigation. He asks whether she knew the decree. She says she did. He asks whether she broke it anyway. She says she did. Antigone does not pretend the law was unclear. She does not claim accident, ignorance, or secret permission. Her defense is far more threatening to Creon. She denies that his command had the highest authority. The unwritten laws of the gods, she argues, did not begin yesterday and cannot be cancelled by a mortal ruler. She knew she could die for burying Polyneices. She chose the act anyway. Creon hears more than religious conviction. He hears open defiance. A ruler who allows someone to break a public law in front of the city, he believes, teaches everyone else that his commands are optional. Ismene is brought in. Now that Antigone faces death, Ismene tries to share responsibility with her sister. Antigone refuses to let her claim a deed she did not perform. The refusal is painful, but it is consistent. Antigone chose alone, acted alone, and will not rewrite the truth now simply to make death less lonely. By this point, the burial itself is almost complete in symbolic terms. A handful of dust has become enough to expose the entire crisis inside Thebes. The question is no longer whether Polyneices will receive Earth. It is whether Creon can tolerate a law above his own. The king who would not bend. If you enjoy Greek mythology and tragedy told as living stories rather than reduced to a moral in a sentence, please like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps gods and heroes unveiled keep returning to the ancient world and telling these stories with the conflict, beauty, and humanity they deserve. Creon's next challenge comes from inside his own house. Antigone is promised to his son Haman. Haman approaches his father carefully. He begins with respect, not rebellion. But he tells Creon something the king does not want to hear. The people of Thebes are afraid to speak openly, yet many of them pity Antigone. They do not see her as a criminal hungry for power. They see a sister who refused to leave her brother unburied. Haman does not simply demand that his father surrender. He asks him to remain capable of learning. A tree that refuses to bend in a flood can be torn out by its roots. A sailor who keeps the sail stretched too tight can overturn the ship. Strength, Haman argues, is not the same thing as refusing every correction. Creon hears the argument as another attack on authority. First, Antigone defied him. Now his own son is repeating the voice of the city. The more people ask Creon to reconsider, the more reconsideration begins to feel like humiliation. The argument becomes personal. Father and son stop discussing only the law and begin fighting over pride, loyalty, age, and obedience. Haman leaves with a warning that Antigone's death will not remain hers alone. Creon still does not bend. He changes the method of punishment, but not the sentence. Rather than execute Antigone openly before the city, he will seal her inside a rocky chamber with a small amount of food and leave the gods to decide what follows. It is a terrible compromise. The city will not directly spill her blood, but Antigone will be placed alive inside a tomb. Creon believes the problem is contained. In reality, he has taken the central image of the tragedy and made it literal. The dead man has been kept outside the grave. The living woman will be put inside one. The living sent into a tomb. Antigone is led away from the palace toward the stone chamber that will become her prison. For all her certainty earlier, Sophocles does not make her emotionless now. She grieves the life she will never have. She will have no wedding, no household, no children, no ordinary future unfolding year after year. The road that should have led her toward marriage instead leads toward a chamber cut into rock. She also looks backward toward the dead who shaped her life: Oedipus, her mother, Eteocles, and now Polyneices. Antigone's courage does not erase fear. It exists beside fear. That matters because her decision would mean less if death were easy for her. She knows what she is losing. The chorus does not give her simple comfort. At times the elders admire her devotion. At others they remind her that stubbornness has helped bring her to this point. Sophocles refuses to turn the procession into a clean victory march. Antigone is both morally certain and terribly alone. At the entrance to the tomb, she makes one final appeal to the people of Thebes. "Look at what is being done," she says in effect. "Look at the price of honoring the dead when the ruler calls that honor a crime." Then the stone chamber receives her. The entrance is closed. For Creon, the sentence has been carried out. But outside the tomb, the religious problem he tried to control is spreading across the entire city. The prophet at the edge of disaster. The blind prophet Tiresias arrives guided by a boy. He has advised Creon before, and Creon knows that his warnings have a history of coming true. This time Tiresias describes signs that something in Thebes has gone wrong at the level of the gods themselves. The birds are screaming and tearing at one another. Sacrificial fire will not behave as it should. The altars are polluted because birds and dogs have carried the remains of the unburied Polyneices across the city. Creon's decree was meant to dishonor one dead enemy. Instead, Tiresias says, it has contaminated the city's relationship with the divine. The prophet gives Creon a simple path away from disaster: bury Polyneices and release Antigone. Creon reacts as he reacted to the guard and Hitman. He suspects corruption. He accuses Tiresias of being motivated by profit. That accusation changes the conversation. Tiresias warns him that he has committed 2 reversals against the natural order. He has kept a dead man among the living without burial, and he has placed a living woman among the dead inside a tomb. A life from Creon's own house, the prophet declares, will answer for those violations. Then Tiresias leaves. For the first time, Creon's certainty breaks. The chorus reminds him that the old prophet has never spoken falsely to Thebes. Creon admits that yielding is painful, but resisting the warning now feels more dangerous. He finally gives the order he should have given earlier. Polyneices will be buried. Antigone will be freed. The king has changed his mind. In another story, that might be enough. In Greek tragedy, the question is whether wisdom arrived before the consequences. The mercy that came too late. Creon goes first to the body of Polyneices. The remains are washed, given proper rites, and covered by a funeral mound. The man forbidden a grave finally receives one. Then Creon and his attendants hurry toward Antigone's rocky prison. Before they reach it, they hear a voice of grief from inside. The rescue has come too late. Antigone has already died in the chamber. Sophocles' messenger describes Hitman beside her, devastated by the sight. Creon enters and calls to his son. Hitman does not answer with reconciliation. In the chaos of grief, he turns against his father, then takes his own life. The catastrophe is not shown as spectacle. Its force comes from sequence. Creon finally obeyed Tiresias. He finally buried Polyneices. He finally came to release Antigone. Every correct action arrived after the moment when it could still save the people he loved. A messenger carries the news back to Thebes. Creon's wife, Eurydice, hears that Hitman is dead. She says little and returns quietly into the palace. That silence frightens the messenger more than a scream would have. Soon another message comes from inside the house. Eurydice, too, is dead, and in her final grief, she has blamed Creon for the loss of their son. Creon returns carrying the weight of a law that once made him feel strong. Now there is almost no one left to command. He does not blame Antigone. He does not blame Haman. At the end, he recognizes his own stubborn judgment as part of what destroyed his house. The king who feared that changing his mind would make him look weak discovers a much harsher truth. There are moments when refusing to change is what breaks everything. What remains after pride? Antigone survives because Sophocles does not make her conflict easy to settle. Creon is not wrong that a city needs laws, especially after civil war. Polyneices did attack Thebes. A ruler cannot govern by treating every private loyalty as automatically superior to public order. Antigone is not arguing that laws never matter. She is arguing that some duties exist before the ruler speaks. Duties to family, to the dead, and to the gods. The tragedy begins when each side treats one kind of obligation as if no other obligation can exist beside it. Most of us will never stand before a king who has forbidden a burial. But smaller versions of the conflict are familiar. A rule may demand one thing while conscience demands another. Loyalty to an institution may collide with loyalty to a person. Obedience may keep peace today while creating a wound that lasts for years. Sophocles does not hand us a formula for those moments. He shows us what happens when listening becomes impossible. Antigone acts knowing she may die. Haman tries persuasion before anger. Tiresias offers Creon a final exit. Creon receives warning after warning, but each warning sounds to him like a challenge to his status. That may be the deepest danger in the play. Power does not only allow a person to command others. It can slowly make disagreement feel like disrespect and correction feel like defeat. By the time Creon learns to bend, there is no one left for his flexibility to save. The final chorus leaves the audience with wisdom purchased at terrible cost. Reverence matters, pride carries consequences, and great words can teach painful lessons late in life. Antigone entered the tomb because she believed a brother could not be abandoned simply because the king ordered it. Creon ended the play alive because survival itself became his punishment. He had to understand what his refusal had cost. If this story stayed with you, please like, share, and tell me what you think in the comments. And if there is another god, hero, tragedy, relationship, mystery, or forgotten story from the ancient world you want gods and heroes unveiled to explore, leave it below. But Antigone leaves us with a harder question than any request for the next video. If obeying the law meant betraying someone you loved, which would you choose?